Hey everyone, today we are in the Sequoia National Forest, checking out some of the biggest trees in the world. This forest has the third largest tree by mass. We're gonna go take a look at that and some other cool features of the forest. Take a look inside this giant tree. Massive sequoia tree. You can see it survived a forest fire. The inside of the tree, where it's no longer alive, got all singed, but outside it looks perfect. Now I'm wondering in here, is this sap dripping out because it got injured from the fire? Or is it maybe fire retardant? Because no matter where you touch, it's not dirty. Looks like it may have been sprayed with something to help the tree out. Hear that? The ground's hollow there. Take a look at this tree. I can't believe it survived this. Most of the base is burnt. Wow. And you see all around here they have what they call animal habitat piles. They clean up the forest floor to prevent future fires from spreading as easily, and things can live in these piles. Some spots they just pile it up to burn when it's wet or snowy, but here they are habitat piles. Here's the other side of that burnt tree.
It's over there. On that one. It's not going in the car. No, it's not. No. The stick is not going in the car.
With the signage behind us.
Yes, caller. Maya, come.
I need Mara.
Can you see the signage? I'm gonna stand on this
Yeah,
side.
don't worry about me.
I want the signage.
Maya, come.
Here's the back side of the tree, where we're going to be able to see some of its fire damage. Massive trees everywhere. You definitely can see trails of people going up to it, which you're not supposed to because it damages the root system. I wonder if some of these are actually burn piles, because this one looks burnt all around it, like last year they may have had a fire there. Other than that, I don't see any evidence of a recent forest fire. Here we are, all the way on the backside. Here's a cabin built in 1872. Big fireplace. It's so dry out here. You see where all the water used to be flowing? Looks like a bunch of recent storm damage. all over the place. This area of the forest is littered with dead trees. Look at the size of these logs. Just small enough to roll out of the way. You can see all the trees with this blue line that are going to be cut down because they're dead and a fire hazard and just a danger standing up. You see, at one point, all these trails used to be nicely paved, but it's been falling apart. Now it's just mostly sand, which makes more sense. It looks like the roots damaged a lot of it, along with erosion. These trees here look so beautiful. They're huge. And there's the cabin we were just at. Check it out. This bark is so thick. Probably 4 inches in certain spots. Look at that. Look at this tree. Apparently the bark can be very fragile. You can see it looks like fire damage in the bottom, and this just looks rough from people trying to climb and touch it. Because if you go up to it, it's soft. And if you push on it, it feels like a dry sponge. And it's hairy like a coconut, or maybe a little softer than a coconut, more like a kiwi skin. It's not showing up perfectly, but that stuff is bright green in person. Walking down inside a giant tree that fell over. This is so awesome. It's got like an 8-foot ceiling in the majority of it. All right, it's getting a little tight up here. See this? How it leaves you all dirty, the soot. That makes me believe they sprayed something in the other ones to preserve them. Because I know right before a fire gets to a lot of these giants, they often will wrap them in metal sheathing to try to protect them. Wow, it actually got a little cold in here. It actually got a little cooler here inside the tree. Incredible. I'm gonna walk through this one more time with a better lens. All right, here we go. That does look a lot better. There's so many different lights in here, it's kind of hard to keep up with the exposure. That looks really cool with the sunlight over all these roots. Take a look at this row of beautiful trees. They're so straight, it looks like they were almost planted. Like I said, a lot of these streams out here are dried up. This one's very dry. It looks like it probably was flowing recently. See how lush it is? In just a moment, I'll show you some water that's actually trickling amazingly. Most of California's rivers are not doing so well. Take a look at this massive cut. It's nothing like that general tree that we saw earlier. That was 40 feet in diameter. But this one I crawled through. Was really awesome. It was kind of freaky how the floor sounded so hollow inside there. Fall into a giant crevice. You can see in numerous parts along the trail, people have been breaking the fences to go up to things. Up here is probably one of the most amazing parts. This tree that's been fallen over for almost 100 years, but it's so intact still. And this little bridge here is to protect the roots of this tree. Still very healthy looking, even though it's laying over. See? Not a lot, but still trickling. And it's very lush where the water is. I'm sure a lot of these trees, their roots are deep enough to be reaching this. That big one up by the road is the one we went right into. See, there's a little parking space with a trail. There's a couple of those on the way in here. This right here, the Michigan tree, is really cool. See that little bit of trickling water? According to the sign, it's been trickling like that even back then. And they say that's what probably made the tree fall over. Probably making the ground too soft. It's been down for 92 years about. It barely fell apart or decomposed. You can see a bunch of people here crawling over the fence, breaking it. Too heavy to climb over a fence. Trying to get up inside here, see where it's all smooth. People walking in there. Huge. Right now I'm gonna venture into the parking lot because I want to see what kind of culvert this stream is going into. I'm sure during heavy periods it floods a little bit, so let's see what kind of culvert it has. Every culvert we've seen on the trail so far has been dried up, but this one crosses the road further down. Take a look at this, everyone. That Michigan tree, it's going all over here, all the different pieces of it, all the way through the forest, all the way over here towards that tree that we went inside the bottom of, crawled through it. Behind the restroom in the parking lot is this little trail, and it looks like it leads down to the culvert pipe. Let's see what we got. Already looks a lot smaller than I expected. Very lush vegetation, lush grass. Looks like sometimes water pushes down here, unless this is most likely people walking here. Yeah, it's barely trickling here compared to up there. Up there we actually had a little bit of a flow. Here it's just iron oxidizing bacteria, oily sheen. So it looks like a 3-foot diameter culvert. We could definitely walk through that type. It's in very bad shape. Look at the whole bottom starting to fall apart. That should be replaced in the next few years. And I need to get out of here very, very quickly. Oh, yellow jackets. Looks like a giant nest up there, maybe. I can't believe it. In California, it's very hard to find a forest that doesn't have evidence of it being burned. Check it out, everyone. Sequoia National Park. The majority of the park looks like this. Where we just were, where the giant sequoia trees are, they protect that a lot. You could tell that it's definitely burned based on what we saw. They definitely contain it, make sure it doesn't spread out of control. But some areas, they look like this. Burned earlier this year. The fires just ripped through the forest floor. Dry debris, dry grass. It girdles all the trees. The heat, it just heats them up. Then a few months later, all the needles fall off them. Then, in upcoming years, the grass all grows back. At the end of the year, when it's dead, the next forest fire, or grass fire, whatever you want to call it, comes through and tears all these down because they'll be nice and seasoned whenever that happens in the upcoming years. Then it'll just turn into like a grassy field because a lot of the trees in California, they're unable to grow back in recent years because it is just so dry in most places. So most of these mountains and hills are just going to be grassy. It would take consecutive 5-10 years of a lot of nice wet weather to get this stuff going again. The forest growing. Everything just singed. Right now, walking back to the vehicle, you can see as soon as we go over that boundary where it says Sequoia National Forest, it rapidly gets faster, or it rapidly gets better because they actually clean up the forest floor and they do controlled burns. So down here, yes, a lot of the trees are burnt at the base, but there wasn't enough debris to heat them up enough to girdle them. Yes, they're a little bit singed, but for the most part, they're alive. It didn't kill that many. It quickly becomes green. But even the green forest, I'd say 90% of forests I've seen in California, no matter how green they are, they're a little burnt at the bottoms. It's amazing how in California, all these western states, most of the trees, they're so green, despite it being so dry. The only dead trees that I have seen on the entire trip have suffered some sort of fire damage. Most of them anyways, unless they're like on the top of a mountain where there's not much soil to retain moisture. That's like the only exception. That's why they're dying in my area. My area has only had a couple years of drought, but it's sandy soil. Trees are not drought tolerant at all like they are out west. We don't have fires yet because we're not as dry. We're just sandy soils, not drought tolerant plants. check out this section of forest, only a 5-minute drive from where we just were. This was a more recent forest fire. That's why a lot of the trees still have their needles. They're very recently died, and some of them probably haven't even died yet from the girdling. Trees, sometimes when they're girdled, they can take years to finally show the effects and die. This is a more recent area that burned. This culvert's not going to work that well. The trail's made by people, it's going to follow instead.
It's just like when you were asking, I was like, maybe if you go around. But yeah, I wouldn't do 10 feet drops. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure at some point you were like balancing in a funny position. Yeah. No, he was very safe. Yeah. So you did the trail pair, or I went down to the station, so I dropped him off. Okay. And then went down to the Sequoia station, which took like an hour and a half. Which entrance is that? Yeah, to get all the way down. It's all the way down. That's so much.
Общий объем его делать его самым большим деревом на Земле.
Try to zoom out one.
No, stay here. It's very hard to see when you're.
This tree is huge. Massive fallen over tree. The sign says that what brings these giants down? It says that just their size, eventually the roots can't support them anymore. right, everyone, we're gonna check out Lake Sequoia Reservoir here. And we just got out of the Sequoia National Forest. I just want to show you how low the water is. In front of us is a giant dried up reservoir. There's supposed to be water way up here. Obviously, by the look of the trees down there, the water level hasn't been up here probably a good decade, it looks like. At least not for long. So it looks like on a normal year, right after these parking spaces would be a boat ramp. But we can drive down here a good ways. Yep. Where we are right now, if this reservoir ever was to fill up, would be well underwater. You see up there on the left, the top of those rocks where the water's supposed to be. This road is able to go underwater. You can see in front of us the bathtub rings over on that hill. Everything you see here is running extremely low. We can't go any further now, but you still see the water line, probably a good 50, maybe even more feet above us. Look how lush and green it is down by the river. That river is actually running extremely low. In some spots you can see the riverbed is really exposed. That's just a stagnant area. That's why it looks like there's a lot of water there. You see, as I turn around, right in front of me, you can see how low the water really is going into the reservoir. Now we're going to take a trip down to the dam. Look how green these trees are right next to the river. All this would go underwater if this was to fill up again. Then look at the hills. Every single hill, every tree has basically gone into hibernation because of the extreme drought. It's not time for them to lose their leaves yet, but they're all brown. Look how lush and green it is in this section of the river compared to the trees up on the hill that haven't been getting any water. Wow, I have not seen these in years. These things that are supposed to pop your tires if you go the wrong way. I remember those were around everywhere when I was a kid, like in parking garages, all the one-way streets. But I guess too many people complained when they got flat tires for going the wrong way, and someone stupid listened. That is funny. I have not seen those in years. Here's another view of the reservoir from the road. You see there's a bunch of roads down there that you can drive on when it's kind of dried up. But what's amazing is you see where the water's supposed to be? It can get way up here near the road. But as you see, it dried up in stages. Driest area. Water was recently here. You can tell the grass just went brown, and it's so lush right down there by the water. At this point of the reservoir, you can see a bunch of campers down there inside it. And you can also see the dam now. Finally can see some water. We're gonna head down to that dam soon. Wow, take a look at how green the grass is right here as we get much closer to the reservoir. That's where we just were over on that road. Bright green grass leading right up to the water here. It hasn't started growing down there next to the water. That means it's still dropping rapidly. All right, here we are at a different spot. This is the boat ramp. Look at this. Water's supposed to be here where I'm driving. The boat ramp continues down quite a way for low water levels, but look how far away the water actually is. The end of the boat ramp is blocked off. Can't go down there. It looks pretty muddy and lush and green. So we're going over here. This is the road that will get us down even deeper into the reservoir. We're supposed to be really deep underwater at the moment. All right, everyone, we drove down here, and here is the current boat ramp. Water level's very low. And I'm gonna turn sideways, and you can see that's the dam over there. We're gonna go see if we can get a quick look at that too. Yep, we should be almost 100 feet underwater. This is the first time I've ever seen utility poles with a fire retardant barrier on them all. See, the forest fire only seems to end when you go into a neighborhood. It looks like they were able to stop it quite a bit. But as soon as we go out of this neighborhood, it's going to be right back into all that burnt stuff, it looks like. Take a look at this. The road we're going down. So many burnt trees, they're getting out of the way. It said visitors welcome. Got an excavator, some gigantic sequoias here. You can see that hill right through the trees is completely burnt too. A tree next to me probably has maybe a 15-foot diameter. It's massive. Check it out, everyone. We just drove through a little bit of a neighborhood before we went down that road where the heavy machinery is. The sequoia trees are massive here. Now we're parked here going to see the stag tree. It's a 1/3 mile walk and it says visitors welcome. Unfortunately, it looks like just up ahead, every single mountain around here is burnt, except around neighborhoods where they obviously stopped it. Even the neighborhoods here, it looks like there was a fire at some point also. All the bases of the trees are burnt, but not to the degree that it killed them. This has got to be fire retardant stuff all over it, but right through the chicken wire, I can see wood that's not treated in there. But I guess it obviously works. Probably makes it so enough fire can't go through there to cause damage. Dog on premises. These trees are huge. I wonder if that's the stag tree, the bright orange one. Do you hear that loud buzzing? There must be a bee's nest so big. I've seen a couple of them flying around, but I don't know where it is. No, I guess that orange tree is not it. It says stag tree ahead. Warning, recently burned area, hazardous conditions ahead. Look at these buildings. They all have thick metal bars on them, probably to keep bears out. Here's a really old car on the way to the stag tree. No, that's not a car. It's an old 6x6 truck. And it looks like there's something else here too. Just a crumpled wreck with trees growing up through it. All right, we're almost to the stag tree. Take a look at this Google image I'm showing you from above. Every one of these mountains was bright green just 2 years ago. Fires just destroyed everything. A lot of these trees that are around me probably haven't even shown the damage yet. Some trees, it takes a few years for the fire to completely girdle them. Because you can see the forest floor got burned here. Some of these trees still might die from that. These giant sequoias are pretty resilient to that. If another fire doesn't come through for 100 years, they'll probably recover from that over time. You know, in the entire area, this is like the only spot that hasn't burned. And I'm wondering if that's why we're hearing so many bees. Like they all moved into this one confined spot. For the whole hike, the sound of buzzing has not gone away. Here's a sign saying stag tree. Now we gotta go off the road. Yeah, the road just, it ends right there. Pretty steep. It's nice to actually hear water flowing at the bottom of this hill. Gigantic tree here, burned. But where'd it fall? I don't see it anywhere. It must have been just a stump. I have no idea where that tree went when it fell. All right, everyone, we finally made it here. There's no way that was only a 1/3 mile. Maybe half a mile or 2/3. Wow, that is one really fat tree. That's the fattest one I've seen in this area. You see, they got a fence here because they don't want you walking near it because you can damage the roots. And you see, people have broken the fence. There's obvious trails walking around the fence. There's so many trees that don't have fences around them that you can visit. I don't know why people feel the need to do this. Get way up on it. Although that is a pretty awesome crevice you can walk through. Because the only part of the tree that's alive is the outer part, right beneath the bark. Everything in here, it's structural, but it's not alive. So you see the fire and rotting over the years was able to just go right through it. And you see it trying to heal. Eventually, if it stays alive, it'll heal. And it's going to be like feet holding it up. It's really cool. Huge tree. But a lot of times when they do rot and burn like this, it becomes top heavy. A lot of these trees fall over just because they get too big. At least that's what some of the signs I read say. This does look like a very established trail, but I don't think you're supposed to go in here. This is incredible. A 3,000-year-old tree. I just took a walk down this trail right here to see where that running water sound was coming from. And it looks like just having this stream trickling here made enough moisture that the majority of the fire didn't jump over here. Because a lot of the fires typically stay on the forest floor. It's not like they're way up high where they can jump. The only reason the trees are dead up high is because the fire killed them at the base. Wow, there is a good amount of water here. It's actually a lot less water than it sounds like. It's because it's falling everywhere, little waterfalls. This was a bit higher not too long ago. Forest fire didn't look like it jumped. At least it kind of fizzled out when it got across, it looks like. All right, everyone, it's starting to get dark and I'm on my way back to the vehicle. I can't believe how many forest fires there are around here. And here's a culvert pipe, maybe for when this road used to go somewhere. I can't believe how many forest fires there are out here. People need to be a lot more careful with their fires. No matter how it may start, grilling, campfire, flicking a cigarette out the window, none of that stuff should be going on in an area this dry. Just parking a vehicle on dry grass can start it. Driest place I've ever seen in my life. It looks like this big sequoia tree here, once it got broken off, it looks like it tried to recover, but unfortunately all the new growth died. You can look down there and see someone's house. Every gigantic tree around, it got singed so badly, it looks like the fire just raced up the bark. Check out all those burnt trees. Moving them out. You can see right now, every piece of these mountains has been completely burned. Every tree is dead, except around houses where they obviously fought it, or cleaned up the ground where the fire wasn't bad enough to catch anything on fire. This is going to result in a lot of landslides once it starts raining and all the roots rot. Yep, pulling into a little neighborhood. That's why the trees are still green. Alright, coming back out of that neighborhood, you can now see every single mountain is just burnt trees. And it's so scarce finding a tree that's not burnt out here. This is going to result in so many mudslides, landslides. These culverts are going to get probably plugged immediately. All right, everyone, we're coming into an area now where they're doing a lot of tree work. They're cutting down any tree that could possibly fall in the road when it starts rotting. This road has so many switchbacks. Got some nice yellow trees. We're kind of inside a tiny little oasis where the fire wasn't that bad. Approaching a little neighborhood. Take a look at this area. It recently had a forest fire earlier this year. Most of the trees dropped their needles already. But right here, take a look at how green the grass is, where this culvert pipe is actually still flowing. Not much water around. It's hard to come by a pipe that's actually flowing. See, the ground is so dry. No rain all year. This is one really big culvert pipe. I would not have expected this to be round. Looking down on the other side, I thought it was going to be a concrete box culvert. Look at that, it's got a bunch of holes through the bottom of it. Rust holes from the freeze and thaw cycles, most likely. I don't see any inside yet. Culvert can probably go on another decade before major issues. For the most part, it seems to be in good shape. So, yeah, And this is kind of strange. Never seen one that looks like this on the outside. Very clean water. This area is going to turn into a little oasis if the water keeps flowing. Bright green. This will be the first place for trees to start growing back. A lot of this area, if it stays dry like it's been in recent years, a lot of the trees won't grow back. It'll just be a lot of grassy hills. Here's a big pool of water held up by this debris blockage. Right away from the flowing water, see, it's very, very dry. And there's even cables here, maybe from an old logging operation. Nice waterfalls here. You can see all the dead, burnt bark peeling off all the trees. And it looks like these trees are actually growing back. They're already about 4 feet tall. It didn't completely die. And it looks like just one little pond after another. I see lots of prints, probably elk, coming over to the water. I see water skimmers. I'm looking for any other life, but that's about all I see. Yeah, there's big hoof prints everywhere. I'm assuming it's an elk. Right now we're on the trail of 100 giants, checking it out. Most of the big trees have survived, but you can see fire definitely ripped through here. Lots of erosion from the last rainstorm. You can hear the hum of chainsaws in the distance, cutting down all the dangerous dead trees. And if you can hear it, it just started snowing. A couple inches are expected tonight. This is a really cool trail. Look at all these switchbacks. See, in this forest, they put these ribbons around all the giant trees that have to come down. You can see up here, completely dead. A few of them aren't dead, but I guess they expect them to die. That would be really interesting to watch these massive trees come down, because there's really no way to get a truck in here and get them out. So they're probably just gonna knock them over. Look over here. It looks like on a normal year, this is probably a pretty swampy area. There's still enough moisture that it looks like a swamp. Look at that giant sequoia over there. And this one right here has a pretty cool hole. It's like a cave. Wow, if I didn't read this, I probably would have overlooked that. This tree is actually 3 trees. I couldn't tell until I looked way up. Take a look at all this damage up here to the trail. The trail's closed, and I see a giant sequoia with probably a 15-foot diameter at least right across the trail. Look at this one. Very recently uprooted. Just look at the size of this one that just recently fell across the trail. You can even see brand new foundations from a bridge that must have got completely burned. Probably just like these. Look at that, another giant uprooted one. If you can't tell, those are probably a 15-foot diameter, maybe even bigger, these trees. Here in California, this is just never ending. I thought it was bad when I first entered the state of Idaho, but as we got down into California, you really can't find anywhere that's not burnt. I'd say 90% of the places I've been have been burnt. I've been driving over the past week or so, probably thousands of miles worth of dead, burnt forest of California. That's all it is. It's basically all gone, all burnt, except the few places they protected. All right, everyone. We just stopped to take a look at another stream. Who knows, it might even be the same one a little bit further down. As you can see, all the trees are pretty much dead. This one has a powerful root system. You see, it's already regenerating. All this growth, probably 4 feet of it, has grown back this year. This oak tree still has a little bit of growth in there, but I'm pretty sure anything you see above is going to die because you see the bark is splitting. It's definitely girdled. The tree just hasn't fully reacted to it yet. But the new growth from the stump, that'll live. That's the case with a lot of these trees. The pine trees typically can't do that, but there's a lot of them growing back at the stump as far as the trees with leaves. This feels so weird, these plants I'm walking through up against my legs. It's extremely dry, the soil. And down here, it's the only really green area you can find right next to the flowing water. That is one big pipe. You can tell water comes through here really hard at times. Look at this big log. Yeah, it's too heavy to move. I'm sure eventually they'll get that with excavators. They have so much logging equipment out here right now. They're working on getting rid of as many dead trees as possible and identifying the few that survived the fire. Typically, the only ones that survive the fire are the gigantic sequoia trees, which can take fire for a while until they actually get damaged enough to not come back. Yep, more nice little pools, which eventually new growth will come out of as long as this doesn't dry up. California's been so dry the past couple years and abnormally dry for decades. You can see around the stream, it's kind of an oasis. That's where you see the most animal tracks, because anything out here, the massive deer population, maybe elk, everything has to come to these streams. You're not going to find water anywhere else. Take a look at this. This forest around here survived. It was either protected by the owners of these campgrounds or just the water table is higher here because there is a lake after all. And there's also that stream that comes all the way down here from up above. I imagine it was probably protected, this area. You can tell they definitely water the grass and stuff in certain spots. Take a look at this. They got this fire hydrant ready to go. They got a hose and a hydrant wrench just sitting there so you could open this thing immediately. At least they're using the burnt trees for something. I can see in here they're cutting them up. There's a log splitter in there. At least someone's using them for heating. I've seen some areas they just cut them down and leave them on the forest floor, which is just another fire hazard. Check it out, everyone. There's a beautiful waterfall down here in the bottom of the valley. The only place where trees seem to still be alive, where it's more wet. I can see a whole bunch of burnt stumps all around. It looks like this whole valley used to be forest before repeated wildfires burning just every trace. Because all those burnt forests you've seen, as soon as that wood seasons, the next forest fire will level everything flat. Yeah, it's a bobcat. Just ran across the road and up the hill, still staring at me. Check it out. We are in the Sequoia National Forest, and this is Isabella Lake. It's completely dried up. You can see the water rings halfway up to the road. Check out these gigantic trees. I've never seen one so big. Today we're in California's Redwood National Forest. This tree right here has got to be about 20 feet in diameter. You can see there's even some other trees growing out of the rotten sections. Let's take a walk around the back of the tree. See, there's a trail because a lot of people come to visit this. One of the bigger trees on the road. Got bushes. I even see some ferns growing high up in these trees. Here's a big rotten one that fell over. And we're about to walk down the road a little bit. And there's a hollow one that looks like we can go inside. I do see a lot of stuff that's burnt. It looks like at some point a forest fire came through here. But it looks like all the giant trees survived it. All this stuff you see on the edge of the road is burnt. This gigantic tree here that broke off, you can see, is very burnt. It's been raining the past couple days very well. It's very cold out here. It's only 42 degrees today. Here comes the car. Check out this giant tree stump right in front of me. See the ground all around the base of it is all lifted up. Looks like this is all storm damage blowing over. but I don't see the tree anywhere. It looks like it was all removed. Here's the other section of the stump. Just a huge stump, at least 20 feet across the whole thing. That must have been one massive chainsaw to do this. Wow, take a look at this one. This one must have fallen over a really long time ago. Made kind of a little cave. You can tell a lot of people go in here to take pictures. For the most part, these trees are all looking very healthy. Even that one right there that broke off, he has a whole bunch of new growth up there. Look at that. The one that broke off, it bounced back really well after losing probably every green branch. Can't believe that tree started growing back. Now this really big one right here, that's all burnt and messed up. It looks like there's seedlings coming out of it. I don't think it's growing back, but it looks like little trees are growing out of the crevices all over it. Yeah, you can see a lot of burnt everywhere. This place was on fire recently. Yeah, this is like a whole cave. This tree's like a whole cave. Wow. Look inside. It's all burnt in here. This is incredible. See the walls in here? Definitely suffered a lot of fire damage. This is one amazing stump. See a lot of people carve their names in here. These are the biggest trees I've ever seen. There's another pretty hollow one right there. It looks like that one fell down a while ago. Then this tree grew here, but it looks like that one got roasted by this year's forest fires. I'm gonna take a little walk down the road and show you a really big one laying on its side. That also looks like we might be able to climb in it. A giant hollow log. Yeah, I see this tree right here. They must have pushed out of the road with heavy machinery after it fell over. There's another car coming. Yep, this is all debris they pushed off the road with heavy machinery. But it looks like some of the really big debris, like that giant, that looks like it had to have been 20 feet across compared to that van driving by it. It looks like they must have hauled that tree out, maybe used it for something. Most of these trees appear to be hollow. A lot of them, if you look at them, they have enough rot that other trees are able to grow right out of them. Like, you see what I mean here? Only the outside is alive. This is inside, which is starting to decay, and that's how they hollow out so easily. Because a tree is only alive on the outside, slightly underneath the bark. The rest of it is just for structure. It's no longer alive, so it can rot. This is what I came down here to see. Look at this tree. That must have uprooted such a long time ago, because you have a pretty substantial tree growing on top of it. I really want to look inside this. Wow, it's like a whole tunnel. You can tell down here a lot of people try to climb up inside. And across the road, take a look at this. You can go in here a little bit. It just gets smaller and smaller as you walk inside. And somebody threw some bottles in here and other trash. It's really nice in here. I can't believe how insulated it is. It's so quiet. It's muffling my voice because these walls are soft. It's It's really nice in there. Amazing forest. I'm so glad it's actually raining. But only been in California for less than a day so far, and it's been raining most of the time. The sun just peeked out maybe about a half an hour ago. Some of these trees look like they were extremely healthy when they blew over. This one has no rot at all. It looks like it just split as it dried out, or maybe the fire cooking it. Based on the growth, the fire definitely didn't happen this year. Maybe last year or a couple years back. This one right here survived. It's bright green at the top. But if we go inside, you can tell the fire ripped through the middle of it where it's dry and, like I said, no longer growing. The inside of this tree is all burnt and charred. Let's walk around right here. Now you're able to see how burnt it is inside. Up through the entire hollow section, fire went through it. It's amazing the heat didn't make this tree die. Long term, I don't know how this tree will do, but it looks healthy right now. Now I'm gonna see if I can get up on top of this really big stump that I keep showing, because this one doesn't appear like it had much rot inside it either when it went down. Like, definitely you could see this part was growing, this part here wasn't. And there are a lot of good footholds here. This wood is wet, so I might not climb up top. It might be a little dangerous, but I just want to show up top. All right. Yeah. This had a lot of good wood to it. So nice being able to look at this grain. I've never seen a tree so big. All right, stepping down again. Nice and slow. And that's about it. I'm down. Going around back. Right underneath us here is that hollow one. So this tree looked like it had a lot of really good wood. It just kind of split when it fell over. And it probably flung back up when they cut it. Look at that. Not a single piece of rot. Very healthy tree. But it uprooted in the wind. So this is probably one of the biggest tree trunks that I've been able to find so far. But if you look up, it looks like it's at least 3 trees that just grew close to each other. So this one over here is probably the biggest one in this area, at least. Found a culvert. Unfortunately, looks like it's a plastic culvert. Let's get down there and see. Yep, plastic. And you can see the end of it is very crushed. And there's even water sitting in the pipe. But look what's sitting on the other side. Bunch of downed trees. Probably the really heavy trucks taking this out is what crushed the culvert. Check this out. in the Redwood forest. I believe this is part of an old train bridge back when they were logging these woods. If you look around here, nothing seems that big. Probably everything was cut down and logged. There's some pretty interesting videos of that stuff on YouTube, like from the 1930s. They're hauling out logs that are multiple times the diameter of the train itself. See, this is so awesome that that's still intact. You can still see some more supports here that have collapsed. More, you can tell those aren't trees. And it probably went somewhere over onto the ledge over here. I want to take a look at that. Right behind us, at the top of this hill, it flattens out to where this probably went. There's a gate currently, and it says closed for safety reasons. Maybe a washout, maybe fires. But after that support, I'm not seeing any more. Looks like they were probably knocked down or removed when they made the road. But I'm thinking, yes, it looks like there is a flat spot up here where it probably went. That's the ocean right there across the road. Yeah, that does look like a flat spot where that would have continued. All right, here we are out at the end of that road. You can see the ocean pretty clearly. Check out this really cool tree here. It's got a good amount of hollowness inside. Not enough to go in. You can see at some point a fire ripped through here. But it's good to see that it's still alive. I don't see any signs of fire damage. That must have been many years ago. Check out this giant stump across the road. I wonder if they logged this a while back, or it just fell over. Oh, they probably logged it. This side of the road, there's a bunch of these giant stumps. Look at this one here, probably a good 8 feet across. If we take a little walk right here, we can see another one. Yeah, this forest floor, there's no sign of fire on most of these trees. This must have been a long time ago. Now, this tree was just massive. This one probably has a 10-foot diameter to it. Got a bunch of little trees growing on it. Not much rot. They were very healthy. Yeah, they're all cut down. This was logged. But by the looks of it, it was probably logged maybe even 4 decades ago. It's been a while. Some of these have tags. This might even still be an active logging forest that they might come back to again. I don't think we're actually in a park. I'm glad I took the walk in here. Do you see this amazing hollow tree? That is so cool. Definitely worth the walk. I think it's dead though. I don't see any growth up there, but we'll see when we get closer. No, it might be alive. What do you think? It looks alive, yes. But the top of it broke off at some point. And there's a lot of fire damage in here also. I see a pile of debris. It looks like it's been falling from the inside. This is quite the crevice. Can't really see up there. Let me see if I try brightening a little bit. Not working out. But this is a really good find. These hollow trees can be found everywhere. That's huge. It's like a 12-foot door in the tree. It's amazing how these trees can survive all the heat of these fires. This right here is another extraordinary one. I love it in here. It's actually kind of cold in the forest without sunlight reaching in here. Only in the low 40s for the day. Look at this, and it's perfectly dry from the rain. Wow, it's so quiet and nicely insulated in here. Looking up inside. Yep, fire definitely ripped through here. And I see a lot of like sawdust stuck in the spider webs, probably from insects. It's amazing. Look at that. The screen is just pitch dark. It feels like I'm in a recording studio. It's so quiet and insulated with the rotten wood all around me. Look at that. I'm just noticing now that the top of the tree must be missing because I see a tiny little pinhole of light up there. Probably well over 100 feet above my head. Yeah, take a look at that. Tiny little pinhole way up there at the top of the tree. I bet that was acting like a smokestack when this thing was on fire. It's amazing it was able to survive this. But there's probably so much rot in here in the middle of the tree that's no longer alive. It looks like the burnt probably didn't even get to it. It looks like it probably insulated it for the most part. And the outside, there probably wasn't enough kindling on the ground to be able to start a fire hot enough to girdle the tree.